Settings. Oh, the internet's a bit clunky tonight. Oh, well,
How are you doing, Spazzo?
we got a superstar guest tonight.
What are you doing? Going to bed?
No.
What are you doing down here?
I'm hanging out with Pop, obviously.
No, we're just about to do this show.
Well, we're on air live as of now, man.
No, not us. I'll take you up.
38 seconds. But anyway, I'll start the game. It's all good. Not my first rodeo. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're here. It's Thursday night. We're back in the studio. Dean and of Spin Doctors. The good Dr. Irvine. Councillor Irvine. And obviously, I'm being a bit cheeky. He's not a real doctor. About as much of a doctor as Dr. Dre is. He is here. Just putting his grandson to bed. Heaven forbid. I hope everyone's had a great week. We're going to chew the fat on some interesting topics. The Hit Job Herald's here in my hot little hands, so we're going to have some fun with that tonight. I'm looking forward to that. And, $30,000 gate at the show. Good job. But our council rates are going up, and it could be as high as 5%. So we're going to touch on all those topics and more as soon as the big fella takes his seat here any second now. And we're going to rock, roll, and get stuck absolutely into it. And here is my illustrious co-host, Mr. Anthony Irvine, Temora Shire Councillor.
Back from my week off. Had to go to a funeral in Sydney last week.
Well, those things are never pleasant.
No.
I hope it went as well as can be expected.
No, it was all good. It was good to catch up with some people and sharing the bad times as well as the good times. A family thing that you got to,
That's what life is, good and bad.
That's exactly right. That's how it goes.
So, mate, I've done about a half-assed sort of an introduction talking about the paper.
Now,
we're
going to do our
disclaimers and intros.
Well, I'm what would it say? Councillor in waiting.
Councillor-elect, I believe is the correct term.
Councillor-elect. There you
Councillor-elect.
So we'll get sworn in.
No, you got to do your disclaimer first. Sworn out. I'll swear out.
My name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a councillor-elect on Temora Shire Council. Any of the views that I express here are views of mine and mine alone, and not those of Temora Shire Council.
And I'm Dean McRae. And fortunately for me, my views are still my own. And I still don't really have to answer to anybody regarding my views. I say exactly what I think, when I think, how I think. Sometimes it's less eloquent than other times, but it's always true, honest, and exactly, as I see it. So certainly no fluff and bullshit in my operation.
Well, you'd never get a job at the Temora Independent with views like that, an attitude like that. I'm sure you've got to write what you're told.
Oh, you'd have to write what you're told down there at the Hit Job Herald.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed because we picked up a copy of the paper this week, and I gave Camillo some homework a couple of weeks ago, and he still hasn't done it.
Well, I still couldn't pick Camillo out of a police lineup.
No, but anyway, remember when I said, I've gone and done the heavy lifting. I've got a copy of the deed of separation released under the GIP Act. I've got a copy of the police report regarding a sheep incident released under the GIP Act. They're both sitting down there.
Feel free to go on in and ask for them, and you'll have some content for your newspaper.
But nothing. I've been through it front to back again, so he's letting me down. So,
well, if you read trash, that's what you get. Sorry.
Anyway, he sits generally, if we sit roughly in the same spot, there might be some slight changes. But anyway, the seating arrangements will be fairly similar at council.
Yeah, well, we might as well touch on that early on, get straight into it. So It looks like we've got our 9 over the line.
Well, what a forwards, backwards land we live in. 1 minute you think we're progressing, and then you see
the good old boys club reigns supreme.
Well,
to a degree.
Look, I've got nothing personally against Ken Smith, but Ken Smith is an elderly gentleman who hasn't got a business interests. I don't know what he's going to bring to the new council. I don't know.
So I met Ken the first time the other day on the polling booth. Actually, he was out the front.
I met him at the candidates.
One of the candidates singing. It was a hey, how you going? I don't know. Ken could be the best bloke in the world. Could be the opposite. But from my experience, he's very pleasant, very polite. As for what he's going to bring, I don't know. I mean, we're certainly.
Well, he's going to be tangling with Nigel for the Sleepy Joe Award, I'm tipping.
That was going to be my next statement. What would be the average age? could we hazard a guess?
Oh, it's getting up there now. That, you know, yeah.
No, I mean, and there are some, obviously some benefits to wisdom and,
Well,
and
I'd say
what have you.
Brenton
But
Hawkins the youngest. Belinda Bushell's probably the next. Narelle Dukic is next. Then myself. And I'm no spring chicken.
what are you? Are you 60 yet?
Oh, mate, I'll look it. But I'm not. That's
Yeah,
what
you're not.
council did to me. I had black hair when I got on council. No wrinkles.
Oh no, it's impolite to ask a lady her age, but
No. No.
Um,
I'm old enough to know better.
yeah, you'd reckon so.
No, there's some.
It looks to me like the average age of Temora Shire Council's actually gone up,
Yes, it would have.
which that could be a pro and a con depending on how you look at it. But and again,
it's certainly not representative.
well, no, it's not representative at all. My big hope with my tendency to stir the pot, particularly in these types of space, I was hoping like hell a couple of these young punks would have got in there and stirred it up. Like I'll provide the big scary distraction, and you guys go in and get yourselves elected nice and quietly, and invigorate and,
Yes,
and
and have
rejuvenate
and have some bloody debate.
have some debate, have some ideas. get stuck
Seriously,
in,
you look, cast your eye over this, and Ken's just going to nod his head at whatever Rick tells him to nod his head at.
which would be disappointing if that's the case.
Well, that's going to be how it's going to go. I can't imagine Ken coming in with any views that are contentious or revolutionary or different or even anyway, like I say. So, Rick, yeah, we know what we're going to get. Nigel, we know what we're going to get. Me, we know what we're going to get. Graham, we know what we're going to get. Belinda, we know what we're going to get. Narelle, don't know. Don't know. She's a bit of an unknown quantity, but we'll see.
I hope she gets in there and she's her own person. I think that'd be excellent. If
Ken,
she was.
I'm pretty sure I know what we're going to get out of Ken. Brenton, well, he's probably the most unknown quantity there. So good luck, Brenton. I wish you all the best. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to Brenton's
Contributions.
yes.
Yeah.
And Paul, mate, I've had a phone call with Paul.
Okay.
Paul had a few preconceived ideas. I think I left him in a different mindset at the end of the phone call.
Yeah, right. Do you want to elaborate on any of them or no, not really?
Oh, look, what would you say? He had a few opinions formed on information that wasn't quite correct.
Imagine that happening in this community at this stage.
Hard to believe.
Shocking, stunning, outrageous.
So, big news, I suppose, in the interim, which will surprise everybody, is we're heading back to NCAT. So, scheduled for the 21st of October.
21st of October, NCAT. What's going on there? What's the NCAT hearing about?
That's a case conference. Now, as anyone who's followed us will be aware that
I always get nervous. You show up to these things, you got all these bits of paper.
No, but we've been through this before.
You got folders, paper, information.
I've requested a copy of a deed relating to employment regarding our ex-general manager.
Yes.
After a long and drawn-out process, we went to NCAT in July and July, 24th of July.
In one of the months starting with J.
No. The date of the orders was 24th of July, correct. No, the hearing dates were in May.
There you go.
Yeah, the hearing dates were in May. So we ended up in NCAT in May. The orders were handed down in July. We finally got the documentation through in August. Council had to make a new decision regarding whether or not, and they had to, remember the recommendations?
Recommendations from NCAT was to
and the recommendations were along
have a rethink.
You guys need to seriously consider, let me find the correct one. That is that one which goes out to there. Sorry about that. Bear with me. Other pile.
So we're off to NCAT, and the original decision was, look, we need you guys to go back, rethink it, and you could probably release a hell of a lot more of that document, was the gist, yes?
Well, no, I'll find these recommendations and read them out because they're the most important. Like, that's the grounds upon why I'm going back to NCAT are these.
Yeah.
These the recommendations from the previous matter were: Honorary Middle, in addition to the issues raised in this decision, the delegate should particularly address the following matters. Now, this is the decision maker. Whether the questions raised by the applicant in his submissions constitute considerations in favour of disclosure.
You're the applicant.
I was the applicant, and look, honestly, it's pretty hard for anyone to argue that residents and ratepayers of Temora Shire Council shouldn't have full and free access to every element of this document. Now, the reasons are that Temora Shire Council, the governing body, have entered into this agreement with an individual, the ex-general manager, and that agreement's been entered into on behalf of the residents and ratepayers.
Yes, we're paying for it.
Well, but the whole agreement's been entered into by the governing body on behalf of the residents and ratepayers. So how then can anything in this agreement be withheld from the residents and ratepayers? There is no grounds.
None that I can think of.
So another telling part of these recommendations, and this is published on Case Law New South Wales. If you search Irvine v Temora Shire Council, you'll find references to these.
Which is funny when you say that, because look, we had the issue with the Pterodactyl FM, who were concerned that we were talking about things that weren't public. And we had issues with the Hif Job Herald, who thought we were talking out of school. All of this stuff is publicly available, other than the little bits we're trying to make publicly available. Everything else is already there. So it's not like we're talking out of school in any way, shape or form here.
No, we are actually basically just enforcing our rights. These are the rights. These are rights inherent in the system that we've been denied.
Yes.
And I'm just exercising or using the mechanism, which is the Freedom of Information Act, the Government Information Public Access Act, to enforce my rights. I shouldn't have to. I should have access to this stuff straight off the bat. I'm a bloody councillor, and part of this agreement has been actioned whilst I'm a councillor, yet I wasn't given free and open access to that document.
Yeah, which is when I become very, very suspicious.
Well, of course you do.
I'm suspicious and I know I'm at the extreme end of suspicion. There is not a government bureaucracy in the land that I don't think is somewhat corrupted, rotten, and shady. But I tell you what,
when I get a document that looks like that,
yes,
that makes me suspicious. What is under that black writing? What's been uncovered so far is very interesting. So I'd imagine what's still covered up would be very, very interesting. Now, the most important recommendation that the decision maker had to consider, and this is part of the most recent decision. So this is the decision from NCAT from those matters. Point 3, whether the public interest in disclosure of government information can be facilitated by granting access to the information in the deed in full or with minimal redactions.
I suppose the word minimal there is the bit that's up for dispute. What counts as minimal? And whose definition of minimal? My definition of minimal is hand the document over.
Look, so when council made this new decision, they actually uncovered minimal more information. They went the opposite extreme. The recommendation was to release the thing in full or with the absolute minimum redactions, and they've done the opposite. They've actually lifted the minimum amount of black ink that they possibly could.
Yeah.
They were told that they can't cover the individual's name because everyone knows the name, and it's not personal information as far as the Act goes.
Yeah, it's not a secret who the former general manager is. He was here for 30 years and arguably during that time did some really good stuff.
And if you sign an agreement, you can't just hide behind that. You're party to the agreement. So there's been absolutely bugger all, like absolutely bugger all lifted. There's a couple of paragraphs there.
A few theys and that's.
There's a couple of paragraphs there that they've lifted, but they're all very benign and very, there's nothing.
Obviously, the the least offensive of the potential
Yeah.
offensive material.
You know, but when you get this is the new
This
document.
is the redacted document.
That's the new document. That's the release document. That's the original.
So this is the document that was supposed to be
minimal
re-released
redactions.
with minimal redactions.
with in full or minimal redaction. That doesn't look like
That
minimal
doesn't
redaction.
look like in full or minimum redaction. So
So-
this is the sort of bullshit that feeds my distrust of these entities.
Look, I've had a gutful. Why should I have to go back and waste my money and my time going back to enforce my rights? Now, I don't think.
Now, speaking of money, because we've had this out before, we've had people
Well,
call us, we've had
had
discussions.
multiple members of the community give us recount interactions they've had with people in the community who've said that council have spent up to $500,000.
Is that correct?
It's absolute bullshit. We went through that last time.
We did, but I like to repeat the hard facts.
Well, what was
so
the total?
it was 63 grand on those two matters, which I oppose that amount being spent too.
Mate,
Like,
here we are.
how much did you spend of council's money for this? Because you're a councillor, you would be
None.
somewhat entitled, I'm
No.
imagining, to a certain amount.
No.
Well, who decides who's right and
Well,
wrong?
that's
Who
the
gets
whole
to pick
thing.
the winner?
Who's got the gold credit card that says we're going to spend this money on lawyers and we're not going to worry about the interests of the ratepayers?
That's right.
And it's offensive then when you get our council rates are going up
5%.
and they could be as high as 5% to cover what? Legal expenses that don't need to be incurred. I'll be very disappointed.
Laws, bullshit, and cover-ups.
I will be very disappointed if council proceed to NCAT in this matter.
I'll be very disappointed if they put the rates up and if they proceed to NCAT on the matter.
But-
How about it doesn't matter what I campaigned on because I campaigned on cutting rates.
Yes.
You know, actually putting money back into the people's pockets and being really transparent. There's no need to be hiding any of these things. I just don't get it.
No. And this is. Look,
I know I'm the scary version of honest. I get it. And I know you to a degree are the scary version of honest. But seriously, and a lot of people like to live under their rock, and a lot of people like to kind of go, no, it's I don't want to know about that shit.
They don't like the disagreements. They don't like the arguments. They want everyone to get along.
Sure.
So they'll put up with being told absolute lies.
Yeah.
And they won't actually put someone on the spot and say, no, I think you're talking smack.
It pisses me off in this country when we've got a circus like a local government. And again, I've said over and over again, it's not just ours that does this sort of shit. Ours is just at a different stage of the decline. I believe all these councils end up in decline. Eventually, they all seem to end up in bankruptcy. They all seem to end up in what's it, administration eventually. This just seems to be the name of the game.
I think we're in great danger of that.
But as a country, right, we've got some of the highest power prices in the world. We've got businesses collapsing left, right, and centre. Small businesses, particularly, and medium businesses are coming unstuck left, right, and centre. People are hurting. People haven't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of in a lot of cases. I'm told there's up to 300 people in Temora alone homeless. Now, if that's an accurate figure,
a mind-blowing figure.
That's a mind-blowing figure. Now, I haven't seen the numbers, and I haven't been around and interviewed every single homeless person in town.
Yes.
I'd be happy to be corrected and modified. But if we've got this sort of situation going on in town where we've got these high prices, we've got high food prices are through the roof. You know, like what I used to spend $100 on shopping a week. It's only me and Ryder. Like, it's not like there's a million of us. And I know he's growing, so that I expect a certain amount.
You're going to get that.
But you're looking at it now, you know, fuck, it's a couple $100 to fill a trolley. It's the costs going up, and now these clans are putting rates up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the councillors all get a modest pay rise as well?
Yeah, they took their.
They got a pay rise.
Yeah, they took their pay rise.
So there's a pay rise for our councillors as well.
I was the only voice who spoke against that, and I basically said, I don't believe councillors should get a pay rise until they can deliver a balanced budget. And at this point in time, we're not delivering a balanced budget.
And that's on some documentation somewhere, that statement?
That's recorded.
In the minutes?
That's
recorded in the minutes?
That's recorded in the minutes, and you can go back and play that.
Yeah, good. So look, I'm looking at this, and we all know it just shits me to tears. I put forward a proposal that I'd like to try and reduce rates annually. But you get what you vote for.
It does my head in, because here we are. council have spent $63,000 of ratepayers' money trying to keep secrets from ratepayers.
Yep.
And with absolutely no basis, because I strongly believe, because I'm not going to NCAT because I've got nothing better to do. I'm busy. I've got stuff to do.
You got stuff to do, really?
But seriously, I believe that the orders that will follow from this hearing will be to release the document in full.
Well, they're going to have to be. They can't have written what they've written there and then come back to NCAT. Nothing's changed.
No.
Other than these guys have obviously taken the piss out of the decision.
They've taken no notice of the recommendation.
And gone, we don't care what you say.
Yes.
We're going to do what the hell we want. Do you know who I am?
Yes.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah. So
Like that's the attitude that comes out.
Anyway.
Of this shit. And it's disgusting towards ratepayers.
yes.
It's an arrogance towards the people who are
And it's
forcibly
like the rules don't apply to
paid.
us. The rules don't apply to us.
But this has been an ongoing thing, and I know your view on that side of humanity is far warmer and fuzzier than mine. You had higher hopes. I've had very low expectations of these things.
Look, one element of it, I think, is they drag the lawyers in and they lawyer up to bully you.
Yeah, of course, it's supposed to scare you into doing as you're told.
And all it does is makes me cranky. Because when I'm right and the laws support it, I've got no fear going to exercise those rights.
No, nor should you.
No. And
nor should anybody else either.
I don't care. They can go and get 10 King's Councils and line them up at NCAT if they want and spend $200,000 for the day.
I'd rather
it
they
won't
didn't.
change my argument.
Because I'm already pissed off about that bill. I don't want another bill.
But don't worry about that. You've got that, plus you've got all the staff time that they've thrown at it, plus you've got all my time, all my lost production,
you're paying for your own.
My fuel,
you're self-reliant.
my travel, the filing costs, everything else.
Yeah.
Then we've got the codes of conduct.
Yes.
Now they spent $30,000 on codes of conduct in the 12 months till September last year. And that was only
nearly $100,000 pissed up the wall, really.
That's without the other codes of conduct that are going to get released shortly.
They get wasted and blown up.
So they've still got, who knows what the next code of conduct settlements reporting is going to be. So they are, in my opinion, using ratepayers' money to bring frivolous and vexatious codes of conduct against me.
Yep.
And they are using ratepayers' money to defend or to keep secrets or to try and keep documents from public scrutiny that the public should have scrutiny of.
And on that note, if you're in the public, if you're in the audience and you do want access to this stuff, do not be shy.
You can walk up,
request
you can walk into the council and you can tap on the counter and say, please give me a copy of the deed of employment related to the re-engagement of the ex-general manager, or you can certainly ask for a copy of the police report into a missing sheet matter.
And you can argue ask for just about any other council document or
you can ask for whatever you want
that you feel that you'd like to know or have, because it's yours. You pay for it.
But this is also the Freedom of Information Act, Government Information Public Access Act, states the object of the act is all government information is public access unless they can prove a public interest against the release. And then they set out the criteria of the againsts.
Yeah.
Well, hello, there's no against it.
Yeah. Covering shady deals doesn't count.
No.
The only reason against it is we don't want to be exposed for having done a slightly shady deal and again, we don't know exactly what's in it. I'm just assuming based on that. It seems to me that this contract probably wouldn't pass the pub test if it was made public. And, it's been mentioned to me that, what somebody earns privately and what agreement there is privately shouldn't be made public, which I agree with wholeheartedly under the guise of private business. But this is council. This is ratepayer money. I'm paying for these people. You're paying for these people. This is not a private agreement between Anthony Irvine and myself. That's nobody's business. This is not
this is expenditure of public money.
Public money.
So this needs to be reported.
Absolutely, it needs to be reported.
And there needs to be a high degree of transparency. Now, just for example, this is an indication of the nature of this document. So it says in one section of it, it says the award staff contract will be for the position of executive manager. It won't be a senior staff position. It will be a term contract for the specific task are providing management consultancy advice to the newly appointed general manager to enable leadership transition and will be covered by the local government award or its successors. Okay, so it sounds like a job, doesn't it?
Just
Sounds like you've got a role and you've got some tasks.
There's some tasks. There's
Well,
an expectation of some sort of performance.
that's at paragraph 3.2, that description.
Yeah.
At paragraph 3.4, it says, the parties agree that the employee will be permitted to proceed onto annual leave and long service leave immediately following the commencement of the award staff contract in accordance with the award and will not be required to perform duties. Okay, well, why then do we have this paragraph that says this is what the job is, this is what you've got to do? And then
By the
here
way,
it says,
but then-
by the way,
then
we
the other-
agree that you can just
In
go,
hindsight, bugger it. Don't worry about it. Take the cash.
No,
Go on
no.
holiday.
off you go.
Go on holiday. Enjoy yourself. And
Now,
fair play.
I've
Can I
spoken-
get a
but
job at Irvine Signs
Look, I'm
whereby I start tomorrow?
a transparent way to do this,
Yeah.
is that when the previous general manager signed his last 5-year contract, if he wanted to take his accrued annual leave, his accrued long service leave
Yeah.
over a period of time, he should have looked at the 5-year contract. He should have looked at the last date that expired,
Yeah.
looked at all the leave that he had and worked back from that date.
And worked out what.
And then he would have determined
Yeah.
a date where he needed to start taking that leave so that all that leave could be taken within that 5-year
And
contract.
nobody would begrudge him from taking a leave if he's earned
No,
over
if
30
it's
years.
his leave and it's accrued leave and,
Yeah,
it's annual leave all along. Look, there's two choices. You either take it in that fashion
Yes.
gradually and you are taxed,
Gradually or more gradual.
or you take it in a lump sum and you would pay a significant amount of income tax. That's my
Which-
understanding.
My understanding as
Yes.
well. And I hate tax with a
And if
passion.
anyone's
So
got,
I'm-
anyone
I'm-
out there's got a different opinion of that,
or
and I've misinterpreted that or misunderstood,
different understanding. For sure,
Please
clarify. We're all ears.
contact us and let
Yeah,
us know.
absolutely.
So-
But that
so-
seems dodgy.
No, well, so had the previous GM proceeded under that arrangement that I'm putting forward,
Yes.
council would have then been obliged to put an acting general manager in place.
Yes.
Okay, for a period, because they would have known, the period would have been known.
Sure.
So say it's 2 years.
Yep.
Okay, so you would have engaged an acting general manager for 2 years. Once the ex-general manager had finished using up all of those accrued entitlements,
Yep.
they would have resigned, moved aside, then council would have recruited a permanent general manager.
Yeah.
And the acting general manager, of course, would have been encouraged to apply.
You
Plus
would
any
think
other
so,
new
yeah, if they've done a good job for sure.
That, for mine, is a very clear and transparent way to deal with this. Everything's up and above board, and everyone can know and understand what the costs are.
Everybody would be like, oh yeah, fair. That's fair enough. Fair and reasonable.
The general manager's pay would have been reported.
Yep.
And the acting general manager's pay would have been reported, and there would be no secrets.
Yes.
At the moment, as a sitting councillor at the time, I'm still denied the information as to how long this agreement lasts.
Yep.
How much leave is to be taken? How long are we
Well, and
going
that's
to be?
significant. How long is this contract?
We don't know. I can't.
Is Gary Lavelle employed indefinitely in a non-employed role at the taxpayers' BS? We don't know. We're guessing.
No. So I think it's really important for transparency and for openness with the community and for credible accountability. I think it's imperative that we know these things. There was a transparent way to do
I
it,
think there's a
and
myth.
for whatever reason they chose not to do it that way.
Yeah.
They chose to do it this way and try and hide all of that
The
information.
fact
from
that
community.
something's trying to be hidden is the bit that really
Yeah, I don't. That
weirds
doesn't
me.
sit
It
well
doesn't
with
sit
me.
well with me at
No,
all.
but it's
And there are
public
some people that are happy to go, we don't care, and that's fine. Good for you. There are other people though who want to know what the hell's going on with their money in their council, particularly because they don't get a choice. We have to pay this shit. Now,
Well, and then it's
My
really
hope
you
is-
see that the council rates are going up, but we don't know
Oh.
where some of these costs are going.
I saw that headline.
That was one.
I vomited in my mouth.
That
a
was
little
one interesting, and we've had this same conversation. It was one interesting conversation with Councillor-elect Mahon, and he said to me, he said, "Well, I'd like to look into the financials." And I said, "Good luck."
Yep.
I said, "It's all reported in a very broad sense with very large cost centres, and you can't drill into any of the finer detail. And when you do request the finer detail, it's denied.
Yeah, well, I don't know about this denied shit. They can bag up on this denied shit. Oh,
Mate.
it's pissing me off.
I've multiple occasions I've asked for in-depth financials and I've been denied.
Yeah, no, well, that's disgusting, and I think
and
I
look,
think
when you've
that
got-
needs to stop.
when
Let's
you've got-
see if some of the new members of the new Temora Shire Council.
well, I hope I'm not the
have
only
the-
voice. I
Well,
hope, yeah.
I'm hoping there's a couple of people, and
Yeah.
I know a few watch this program. I
Well,
hope you've got the courage.
Councillor-elect
Which-
Marn's already said that he wants
Well, saying it and doing it,
well,
you
he
know,
wants
saying it is one thing.
in-depth.
Plenty of people say stuff, Councillor Irvine. Lots of people talk. Lots of people talk. I'm a hell of a talker. But I tell you what, I work my ass off.
Yeah,
And,
hopefully, all the new councillors
you know,
want a higher level of scrutiny than the. And look, I think that the incumbents who will make up, they'll be Councillor Furman, Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Judd, they were all on the General Manager's Performance Review panel. They
Yep.
all had access to all of this information.
Yep.
So they don't care.
no,
They know it.
they obviously approve all of this.
Exactly.
They all obviously
they've done
approve
the
all
deal,
of
yeah.
this, which
But they just don't want other parts of the team to know. It's like, no, we'll keep this information here and we're not going to share.
we're a little bit more special than you.
Yes,
we're a little
exactly.
more
There's a
equal
little-
than you
yeah.
guys there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
Which, you know, look, that disgusts me.
Unequal.
I sincerely hope that the new councillors, the new faces in that room, and maybe even some of the old ones, if they've got the courage, are willing to ask these questions. You do not have to like this man. You don't have to hang out with him in your social time. But the fact is, these questions are very, very legitimate, and hopefully, a few of these other
and back to digging into these deeper into these financials. That's something that I'll do.
yeah.
But there's a certain situation where you go, okay, I've got a number of matters that I'm got.
Yeah, you've
Very
only
good
so many hours in the day that you
And-
can bash your head against a brick
Well,
wall.
I've run a number of these matters, and I am accruing significant amounts of information. This all started, as you'll recall, and we went into this in
A couple of weeks ago,
a
yeah,
couple
yeah.
of weeks ago when the breakdown of the town hall project, and that's what
Yeah.
the only reason I'm even on council is because I believe that I was treated very poorly in a business deal, and I upheld my end of it. And one part that we never touched on that I left out was a unscheduled visit.
An unscheduled visit.
After council had offered to settle the matter, the invoice in full that I'd presented for the town hall
Yeah, yeah.
work
yeah.
that I'd done.
And if you're not quite sure, flip back to
Yep.
to the episode 2 weeks
Um,
ago, and you'll get the precursor for what we're talking about.
And they put a 10-page legal document in front of me, and
They love
they-
these legal documents.
Yeah.
These people.
insisting I signed that. I don't know what that cost them to have that prepared.
The irony is, I do most of my deals via handshake and
Yes,
my word.
well-
and that's usually enough.
Yes. The precursor to this agreement was obviously a gentleman's agreement, and I'd
Yeah.
upheld my part of the agreement, and it had been recorded and written down, and there was a lot of evidence of performance of the contract, and there was even payments based on the first part of the contract and all the rest of it. So we went through that previously, but
Yep.
one part of it was very disappointing when I said, look, I don't see why I should have to sign a legal document in order to get paid for work I've proven I've done.
Yes.
It was a couple of weeks after that ex-general manager, Mr. Lavelle, attended my place of work, unannounced, hadn't made an appointment.
You get the odd visit unannounced at your place of work, don't you?
Yes, I do. I'll talk about another one shortly. But what was very disturbing was that it was about 1:30 on a Friday afternoon. It was a sensitive matter that had been ongoing for a long period of time.
Yep.
And the general manager walks in and he's got basically a cheque for the full amount in one hand and a one-page legal document in the other. And the
Carrot and stick, or what is it?
proposition was
Yeah,
sign this,
dancing bear, dancing
Sign
bear,
this.
dance.
and you can have this. Now, I think that was extraordinarily unfair.
Yep.
I don't think it would be considered ethically correct. Surely someone of a high level experience must know that it's completely unfair just to approach a matter like that in that fashion and not give the other party fair warning as to you'd like to have a meeting with them, what you'd like to discuss,
Yeah,
what your
yeah,
position is,
yeah.
so that they can actually.
It's not like you were getting along well, whereby you sort of were thinking to yourself, "Oh yeah, cool, I'll just duck up and
No,
we'll
no,
get
no.
this done."
No.
It wasn't the relationship wasn't oh shit, I've just done A, B, and so I'll run up. Hey Anthony, I'll throw this in front of you, mate. Let me know what you think. I'll catch up with you later. We've been at loggerheads for quite some time. This is a serious matter, and I'm going to be a dick about it.
Well, I just found it was very what would you say? I thought it was in bad faith.
Yep.
And
Which most of this seems in bad faith. Everything from that to that to that, it's all bad
an
faith.
action like that I thought was in bad faith, considering that this person had been, it wasn't their first
rodeo.
They'd been in a high level position for a long period of time, and they were pretty clear on their obligations.
It's not a bloody rookie error, let's be realistic.
And to walk in and just put it on someone and just go, sign this and you can have this, I just thought it was
I would have said, give me the check, nuts, and you shove that fare up your ass.
Well, no, I just said, keep the check, leave the legal document with me, and I'll consider it. Now, I went back with the same response.
Yep.
Why should I have to sign a legal document in order to get paid for work I've proven I've done?
Yes.
Well, the answer came back, no, you misunderstand. We just need this for audit purposes. In matter of fact, you can write your own. So ultimately, in order to get paid for that project, I provided a receipt.
Oh, that sounds
a receipt.
Now this receipt thing, that sounds very innovative, Anthony.
Yes,
very unorthodox.
So the
a receipt for services rendered.
The only piece of
never heard of
that
such
I provided after I issued the invoice 12 months prior was a receipt.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Heaven forbid.
So that was very poorly handled as far as I'm concerned. So people sit back and they think, what on earth could have riled you up to the point where you would run on council and be so hell-bent on holding them to account? Well, when you've been treated so poorly, and then you have acts of what I consider an act of bad faith, when someone basically turns up to your shop and tries to bushwhack you.
Oh,
that's how I felt. That might not have been the intention, but that's certainly how I felt.
But again, as you pointed out, not a rookie error. These guys know what they're doing.
And they know that it's a sensitive matter, and they know that they've got
if you've read The Art of War or 48 Laws of Power or anything even marginally close to that, which I'm pretty sure that he would have done, they know how this game is played. And those things are absolutely psychological
very unfair
games to be played. Now,
so
that
leads into, I suppose, one of the next major points of disagreement in this whole process. And it's led to some really poor behaviours and some really poor outcomes in my decision, because these matters haven't been dealt with in an upfront and forthright manner. And even to this day, I still don't believe the town hall job's been resolved properly. There's still a lot of questions unanswered as to how that all went down and how it could possibly have occurred. I haven't had any sort of a formal apology for even the fact that it took me probably twice as long to arrange payment for the project as I put into the project.
Yeah, which I'd start billing them for that time as well.
Well, there's also...
It cost me 85 hours in arguing with you to be a dickhead.
No, well, actually, I sort of claimed 150, and I reckon it cost me more like 300 to get
it.
But there's a certain point where you go, look, you're going to pay this, and I don't care how long it takes.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the sort of point that I got to, because they were so frustrating and so prepared to ignore hard evidence of the truth.
Scary, that truth thing, isn't it?
Well, obviously, if all I had to put forward was a receipt to receive full payment for the invoice I'd offered, then you'd have to think that the invoice had merit.
You'd have to think the invoice had merit, and you would have to think that first the 10-page document was bullshit, and then the second 1-page document was bullshit.
It would.
And there's bullying, coercion, and harassment going on there.
Yes. Well, that was certainly how it felt from where I sat. And
look, and we live in this fairy dust world where just about everything's considered bullying. Just about everything. And it's all, and look, I'm the last guy.
Well, I've been accused of bullying.
Oh, well, yeah, I know you've been accused
of bullying. I've been accused of bullying. The only thing that they lack is evidence. So they're
very, very minor factor, that evidence.
They do tend to...
But again, I mean, these
throw
days...
the word around. And
these days, the definition of bullying, and you look at it, and, anytime I see some government run ad basically saying, we oppose bullying and we oppose aggression and we oppose... The entire foundation of government is based on
bullying.
bullying and violence.
Yeah.
Don't pay your rates for long enough, and they'll come and steal your shit.
Oh,
Don't pay your taxes, and you'll be in handcuffs in jail. That's bullying. That's, they're coercing you to do something that suits them. You must comply with them. No different to
and the group endorsed that, and the group sit back and they allow that.
No, absolutely. Look, absolutely.
But they do hope that it's got some basis.
They hope it's got some basis, and they've got the rose-coloured glasses on.
What is your definition of bullying?
My definition of bullying. I haven't got a formal definition of bullying. I know, arguably, it could be said that the paper attempted to bully me with full reports of my indiscretions.
You
4
think
weeks
so
in a
when
row.
they tend to single you out?
You could take the first one and go, fair enough, cop that on the chin. But when you go to 4, arguably, I could be in the corner. I'm feeling bullied and harassed. I mean, I'm not that kind of guy. I've got pretty thick skin. But, it's a broad definition. And I question whether or not it's valid for any government agency to ever frown upon bullying, because that's their entire existence is predicated on that. What's
from the Australian Human Rights Commission? So I suppose this comes from a government department. It should be the one that most government agencies would reference.
You'd reckon? Tell me what these clowns have to say.
It's just bullying.
People have to say.
It's when people repeatedly and intentionally use words or actions against someone or a group of people to cause distress and risk to their well-being. These actions are usually done by people who have more influence or power over someone else, or who want to make someone else feel less powerful or helpless.
Oh. Well, I suppose that'd probably come in under the newspaper's attempts on me. I guess I could probably claim that if I wanted to.
The sort of repeated behaviour that can be considered bullying includes keeping someone out of a group, so keeping information from someone or not including them in meetings, or information that
yeah. Which I generally find
acting in an unpleasant way near or towards someone, giving nasty looks, rude gestures, calling names, being rude, impolite, constantly negative teasing, spreading rumours or lies, or misrepresenting someone. That is using their Facebook account to post messages as if it were them. Mucking about that goes too far. Harassing someone based on their race, religion, gender or disability, sex. Intentionally and repeatedly hurting someone physically.
Yeah.
So that's
that's pretty straightforward.
Intentionally stalking someone, taking advantage of any power over someone else. So that's their broad description of bullying.
Yeah, well, it's pretty broad, but I mean,
so
look, as a gist of bullying.
Let's talk about
across
bullying.
I get so nervous when you break out these folders, dude.
Well, I sat in a meeting with council at one point because as the town hall project unravelled,
yes,
there was another sideline that had a great concern for me. There was a premises down the street that had an old heritage sign on the sidewall.
Right.
And it was something that I'd actually brought to the attention of the owner back in 2003. So
I think I was still in London when did the bombs go off in London?
Well, in 2003, I was running a business across the road diagonally from this place, and there's evidence there of a quote from 2003 made out to the owner of the business and refurbished the sign. There's a price.
Yep.
Yeah, on my business letterhead. Now, at the time, I had an apprentice, Ricky Hard, who's since moved on after, training under me for a period of time, learning a lot of the skills that you'd need to perform a job like this.
Which is kind of the idea of being an apprentice.
And was working for me when he knew of my approach to Mr. Cornford relative to this.
Yeah.
So I feel as though Ricky Hard knew about the job, was taught by me how to do the job.
Yep.
So that was just part of the element. And that was all discussed back in 2003. Fast forward to 2018.
I was catching bombs in London in 2003, I'm pretty sure.
Catching
bombs. When they blew up all them trains that were over there. We were
yes.
Yeah, we were over there. I think that's old Osama bin Laden. He was one of the early ones to have a crack at trying to get me out of the game.
Yes.
No, it's not unprecedented, this stuff, yeah.
So fast forward to 2018, and the Temora Heritage Committee received an approach from Mr. Jeff Cornford about perhaps refurbishing said sign.
Right.
And I've got the copy of the minutes here from the February Heritage Committee meeting in
Yeah.
2018. This is about the same time as the Town Hall project was starting to unravel. Now, the chairman of the meeting was a Mr. Chris Dunstan, who'd engaged me to do the Town Hall project, who we were sort of at odds with at the time. And he had a staff member, Belinda Bushell, who was secretary of the Heritage Committee.
Yep. Both names are familiar.
And well, Belinda Bushell's a councillor now, and Chris Dunstan's a director on council.
I was burnt a little bit.
Yep.
You know.
But Councillor Nigel Judd was present. Jason Good was present. He wasn't a councillor at the time, but he was present at the meeting and got since elected. Of course, Jeff Cornford that we've mentioned, who was the owner of the building.
Yep.
So when you look at the minutes from the February 2018 Heritage Committee, you go through, and towards the end of the minutes, there's a note here. Jeff Cornford has raised the Galdenia T sign on Cornford's building. It's been put in as a future project. And there's a note here in the actions arising. Belinda Bushell to request a quotation from Regal Signs. Now, Regal Signs is the business run by Ricky Hart, who was employed by me back in 2003 and was privy to the information and obviously trained by me in this, the processes required to do a job of this nature. So
Yeah. Yep.
it's all
Fair
pretty
enough.
straightforward.
Now, these sort of things, is this hoping, I guess, that council's going to come good with some money on this, or you just need permission from council to be able to, I don't know, paint a wall?
No. Jeff's
What's council's role in this?
Jeff's objective was to receive some partial funding to help. This job is being reinstated to, what would you say, refurbish something that's been part of Temora's visual streetscape, visual amenity for a long period of time. Their old historic, what would you say, part of the historic record of retail trade in the area, in the CBD. And they get to a certain point where they're basically almost gone.
Yeah.
And you've got a choice of either, because they're in an outdoor environment,
Either
you've got
restore them or you.
to restore them or let them go
Yeah.
and move on. Now, there's been a lot of them lost over the years, but there's been quite a few of them that have been refurbished. I've done quite a few over the years, and I would be considered probably a master for that type of work.
Yeah, right. Okay.
You'll note from the minutes that my business wasn't given an opportunity to quote.
Yes, it wasn't on the list.
No. So
Which I'm sure you'll make this paperwork public for anybody who's sitting there going,
Well,
well, hang on a minute.
it's the Heritage Committee.
Public's
it's the minutes
there.
of the Heritage Committee, and basically,
Don't ask me for it. I'm not going to have a
No.
copy of it, but you
No.
know, I've read it. It's here.
and it says
Uh,
clearly,
yeah.
Belinda Bushell to request a quotation from Regal Signs.
Yep.
And no mention of Irvine Signs or any other provider. So they've chosen at the Heritage Committee, and that's the action point, to seek one quotation from one company. Now, I didn't even know this
And
project.
standard practice for most of these sort of things, particularly with government. I mean, and most big businesses as well. You get your 3 quotes.
But not even that.
You know, you go through. There's a
No.
quoting process. You open up for tenders.
No, but not even that. There's a low value section where council officers can make a choice on proof performance and all the rest of it.
Right. Okay.
But there's also a procurement policy where council try to at least give local providers an opportunity to quote and participate, because a strong local business community relies on the support of big businesses like councils and that, sending smaller businesses their custom.
Can we not call council a business, please?
Well, they are a business. They've got an ABN number.
Well, it still makes me sick to my stomach. They're not. They're a service provider for the community at best.
Well, they want to act like a business when it suits
Oh,
them.
we know they want to act like one,
Yeah.
but it's, you know,
Then
they
they want
aren't.
to get grants and have all of these other advantages at different times. Now,
Well, yeah, it's just, look, from my perspective, there are businesses, there are people out there who risk their homes, risk their, blood, sweat, tears. They risk all of these things,
yeah,
and they're businesses.
Yeah.
If
No,
there is no voluntary custom, there is no business. If you're in a monopoly, i.e., we're a council that you have to deal with us and we forcibly take money from people, you are not a business. You are simply a glorified extortionist.
Yes. So council had a shortfall, believe it or not. Now, this is where it gets even a bit murkier. Council had X amount of money in the Heritage Fund, and I imagine Mr. Cornford contributed some, but council had a shortfall. So they actually went out to the community and they did some fundraising, and they put some articles in the local newspaper, and they actually tried to get
Crowdfunding.
donations from the local community.
I can dig crowdfunding. I think all those projects
Yep.
should be done as crowdfunding.
So they got the local community involved to contribute.
Yeah.
So
I
that
like
they
the
could
idea to put
engage,
some money in it.
so that they could engage a company from out of town to do the restoration.
Well, yeah, that's probably not ideal, but
No, I
as
don't
far
think.
as far as approaching the community and saying we've got a project we think may have some value.
Yes.
If you believe in this project, we would like you to help fund it.
Yes.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
So these things started, and I just sort of, you could probably appreciate at the time, I'm focusing on the breakdown of the town hall project. And this
Yeah.
is like, what's this thing? And I've looked at it and taken a bit of note, and then I've looked at it again, and there's some more articles. And then, so in a meeting in October, so basically it had come up around August that I'd started asking some questions about this project. Why weren't we given an opportunity to quote this job? So we're sitting in a meeting in October in 2018, and I basically said to the general manager at the time, Mr. Gary Levell, I said, we weren't given an opportunity to quote on this project. How come?
That's a fair question.
The general manager made a comment back to me in the meeting, and he said, I've got a statement from Belinda Bushell, who was working for council at the time, that she tried to contact you 3 times and was unable to contact you, so she was forced to go elsewhere.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I said, really? I said, that sounds unusual. Give me a copy of the statement. And he said, no. And I said, that's very unfair to sit there and basically rely on a statement but not provide a copy of it.
Yes. If you're going to rely on something.
Yeah, so if you're going to hide behind something, offer it up.
Produce it. Yeah.
And, anyway, no, I'm not going to give you a copy of it. That's what happened. Well, that's bullshit. That didn't happen.
How do you know?
Well, I know because
I'm asking because obviously people out there are going, well, how do you know that didn't happen?
Well, I know that every other time Belinda Bushell wanted to get in touch with our company to do work, she achieved it.
Yes. Fair
Belinda
enough.
Bushell had previously, and we've done many projects through Chris Dunson's office in council, and Belinda Bushell had taken care of a number of them.
Yeah.
We've done many projects, and
And had those projects gone well?
yeah, that all gone fine.
Excellent. No, well, you got to have the good and the bad.
Belinda had our email address, and she could have emailed us.
Yeah.
Belinda didn't leave a message on our answering service. She could have left a message. If she called,
Yes.
she never left a message. She could have sent me a text. She'd sent me texts before on my mobile. She never sent a text.
Yeah.
She could have called.
So there was a precedent of multiple ways to contact you.
There's 1,000 ways that she could have contacted us.
But there had also been a precedent of using multiple ways. Not
Absolutely. No.
This was the only form of.
No, I've got evidence of text. I've got evidence of email. I've got evidence of calling in our office and arranging things. There's all sorts of different.
Yeah. Righto.
So I disputed the statement.
Yep.
Anyway, I said to Mr. Levell, give me a copy, and he refused.
Sure. So it seems to happen a little bit to you. You ask for things and you're told that you're not entitled to look at it.
Yeah, but you want to use it as an excuse. I said, okay, the job hasn't gone ahead yet. You've got an opportunity to pull it up.
Yep.
No. The job's been given. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's unfair. Anyway, it was a little while after this that I had a conversation with, a little time before that, actually, I'd had a conversation with Ricky Hard, and I said, he actually rang me and he said, did you quote the Goldania Tea job? And I said, no. I said, why? And he said, I've got it. And I said, right. So I went and looked into it, and I rang him back a little bit later, and I said, look, we haven't been given a chance to quote this. It sounds as though to me like council are actually doing it out of spite.
Right. With the other dispute that was sort of going on.
We weren't given an opportunity.
Materialising.
It's in the middle of Temora. We've done the majority of the signage for Temora Shire Council. The Temora Shire Council have got a procurement policy that says local providers should be given an opportunity. and we haven't been given an opportunity in this particular instance.
Yeah.
So you do have to wonder
how that came about.
what set of
after,
circumstances.
yeah.
And the only thing that I can put it down to is the fact that
They decided to go up your bum.
well, I think there was an element of that. So I actually spoke to Ricky Hard and I said, look, is there any possibility that you consider going halves in this job? We could share the work, share the outcome.
So what's your motive? And again, now, why would you want to share the job with somebody else who's got it? And surely it's not just money, because the number on that bit of paper wasn't that significant. It was
No.
a modest sum.
No, but it was basically just I felt that I was being treated unfairly, and I thought there was an opportunity there if I had been able to work in partnership, then the job it would have shown that what would you say? You've tried to be bastards, but we're better than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would have been a little bit of okay. You've tried to keep me out of this project intentionally, but hey,
here we are, and we're working together.
You know, what are you playing?
I can understand that totally. Yeah.
But anyway, the offer was rejected.
Okay.
And that's water under the bridge. I thought it, what would you say? It was a favour that I probably asked, and that I did ask, and it was rejected. And I was a bit disappointed in that, but
these things happen. That's life, you know.
And as was that individual's right to proceed down that path.
Sure, absolutely.
I had grounds to basically I said to the individual, if things had been travelling normally and we had been given an opportunity to quote the project, there's a high likelihood that we would have got the project.
Yes.
Because number one, we don't have to travel.
Yep.
Yeah, there's just a natural.
There are cost savings.
There's a natural cost saving there. There's also a cost saving there because I've done more of that type of work than the other individual. So at that point in time, you'd say, well, you're probably going to do it quicker.
Yep.
So there'll be some cost savings there. So there are reasons why.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, it was sort of pushed to the side because there were other matters going on. The project got done and finished. People from the community contributed to getting an outside company to do this project.
Yep.
The council went out of their way to do promotions and publish the finished work in the paper and actually promote the other business.
Yeah, okay.
Which was a bit hard to take.
Yeah.
So it was like they'd never really promoted anything that my company had done in the 18 years prior to that I'd been before.
Yeah, you've just been doing the job and
getting a good outcome for them. But all of a sudden, they really did take a great interest.
Little things like that you do notice. Well, some people notice.
It certainly felt like they were trying to stick a pineapple fair where it doesn't fit, with the pointy end and twisting it, with some vigour.
Yeah, so very enthusiastic.
Early the following year, about March, I started to follow up on the statement.
Yep.
And I said to Mr. Lavelle in an email, I said, please provide a copy of this statement. He said, no. I said, look, you can't really sit there and say you've got a copy of this statement and not provide a copy. And he said, it's an internal operational email of council and I won't be making a copy available. And I said, well, that's just fine and dandy, but I really do think you should have to give me a copy of it.
Well, yeah.
And there were so many problems with that project where there was a statement made about the contact, which I believe was false. And there's no evidence of that contact ever being made. There was 1,000 other ways to make contact, which weren't taken advantage of. Council had the opportunity to pull the job up when they realised that we hadn't been given an opportunity to quote, but they decided not to.
Yeah.
There was a real bad
it wasn't going well.
So at that point in time, I had to take Gary's word for it. It was a little bit later that I came across the Government Information Public Access Act, and I thought, well, this would be ideal.
Yep. Let's ask the question and see how it plays.
I put in a formal access application for the document, and council decided to give me their first heavily redacted version of the document.
Yeah, right.
Now, I put the access application in on a Tuesday afternoon in March in 2021, 3 years later, or 2.5 years later, because it had been October 19, October 20, March 20. Yeah, about 2.5 years after I'd actually asked for the original document.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
it was about 20 to 5 when I put the application in. I paid the money. I received in my inbox a copy of the redacted statement.
Yep.
About mid-morning, the very next Thursday.
Yeah, right.
So less than 3 days later.
Yep.
Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 days later. Well, it's my understanding that Belinda Bushell resigned from council that day.
Yeah, right.
Very upset and highly offended that I'd sought this document,
Right. Okay.
questioning the honesty of her statement. I imagine I haven't.
Which
had
there's
that
a
verified.
statement. This is a statement that you haven't been given the privilege of seeing.
At that,
From what I understand.
up until that point, I had not.
Yeah.
I only had Mr. Lavelle's word from that meeting that was the basis of the statement.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so a week later, there was a phone call between Belinda and myself.
Yep.
Where basically she was handing over or tying up any loose ends because we had a couple of projects that were still.
Yeah. When you finish one role and you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Sure.
And there was a point, like, there was certainly no situation where action was taken other than getting a copy of the document.
Yep.
So it was a very, what I would say, unusual and a very rash action on behalf of Belinda to resign her position.
Particularly if there's a job that she'd been doing for some time at that stage, or?
I think the story was she'd been at council for about 18 years.
Oh, cross.
Yes.
Well, that's a lot of years.
Yeah. So it was a big move.
Yeah, right.
To do that. So anyway,
people come and go from jobs all the time, but
no, when you
councils are sort of safe haveny type jobs. People who get jobs at council tend to stay there.
And was fairly upset about it all anyway. So I took the opportunity to print out some information that I'd had that I'm pretty sure she hadn't seen.
Yep.
So, and because she was a bit upset, I thought, oh, well, the smart thing to do is probably just to give it to her husband. So I just dropped it in at his work one morning.
Yep.
So another week passed. I think Belinda was finishing up on the Friday, 2 weeks after, she'd given notice.
Yep.
And I got this, so it was a Thursday, and I got this really disturbing email.
Right.
Making all these allegations and making all these claims. And she obviously was clearly upset.
Right. Okay. From Belinda, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Directly to me. Using Temora Shire Council's email system.
Right.
And she'd CC'd in the mayor, the deputy mayor, all the councillors,
the
general manager, and all the senior staff.
Okay.
Right. So I responded.
Well, at least that's transparent. I'm good with that.
Yeah. It all depends what you're saying, I suppose.
Well,
if you're telling a heap of things that may not be true.
Well, yes, but
and being abusive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I haven't seen that email, so I'll just.
So I responded and said, look, I don't agree with what you've just said, but you sound upset. Take it easy, and I'll respond in due course. So then I got back a further response, which was like, no, you're a toxic person, and I don't want to ever hear from you again, and rah, rah, rah.
Okay.
And I just didn't respond to her. I responded to the others. So we've got a situation here where a council officer who's employed at the time using council's email system are sending abusive and factually incorrect emails to a contractor who's got purchase orders in hand and work in hand.
And this is all before you were ever on council. I'm just so keeping this all clarified.
This is in March 2021
for the audience, for the people who are watching.
Yeah.
So you at the time, your only role on council was you were a subcontractor on it for various jobs.
Yeah, and we'd had the breakdown. Like, relations weren't good because we'd had the breakdown of the town hall project, then we had the debacle of the Galdenia Tea project, and all of the misinformation. Well, I'll just call them straight out lies because I haven't been proven otherwise.
Okay.
That the contact was made, and there was a lot of opportunities to make contact that weren't taken advantage of.
Sure. All right.
So, and again, council refusing to give information up that should have just been
straightforward.
They should have just come up and just put it on the table and said, that's the document. I would have gone, well, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, and that's wrong. So let's work it out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But no, let's deny, and it just escalates and ratchets up to the point where people won't.
Rule one of all politics is deny, deny, deny.
Well, it gets to the point where people just go, this is absolute shit.
Oh wow, I've been at that stage since I've crossed, probably
But-
since my first ever paycheck when I discovered what
Yeah.
tax was and
But-
became very disenchanted.
Yeah, well, there's that. But
I took it very personally that these pricks were stealing from me. I can tell you,
yeah, look,
I didn't see them show up and do any work.
that's again, redactions
Yeah.
all over the place. That's the original document that was given. Based on the statements in the original document, I requested the minutes from the Heritage Committee so that I could actually verify the validity of the statement.
Yep.
There's something in here that says the quote was presented at the March Heritage Committee
Right.
that was provided by Regal Signs. When you go and you interrogate the minutes from the Heritage Committee and you go to March,
Do they have Nobel Peace Prize people who are absolute beasts at going through paperwork?
um,
Yep.
the individual who claims to have presented the quotation was an apology.
Yes, that's a bit awkward, isn't it?
Well, it
It's a
doesn't
little bit awkward.
really add up. So we've got a situation where these phone calls were claimed to have been made, where the minutes actually don't support that because the minutes didn't direct that individual to even contact us.
Yeah.
There was no intention from the committee to contact us.
Yeah.
Then there's a claim made that we've presented the quotes at the March Heritage Committee meeting, but was an apology. So it's starting to stack up and look a bit ordinary. Anyway,
No, it's starting to look a little bit, personal.
yeah, so look, I've challenged the document with the redactions, and then it led to a review by the Information Commission who suggested council make a new decision.
Yep.
Council then made the new decision and refused to remove the redactions. And then we ended up on our very first trip to NCAT.
Oh, they're lovely.
Now, here we are. Now, the first request for this document was made in October 2018. Now, here we are, scheduled to go to NCAT in November 2021.
Yeah, right.
Over 3 years after the original request was made. Now, this is how pig-headed and bloody-minded these individuals can be over a bloody page-and-a-half document that they've used to hide behind, but they won't offer it up.
Yeah.
And have it interrogated. We're going to hide behind this. It could be worthless. It could be useless. It's probably not true, but we're going to hide behind it. And they won't allow the individual who wants to challenge that the opportunity to even read the document and discuss
the contents of said document.
Yeah, and
Validity of said
ascertain the integrity of it.
Yeah, of course.
And then to go into the other matters that are so it's just so frustrating. So anyway, would you believe we went to the case conference, which is the preamble to an NCAT hearing where
Yep.
you get an opportunity for both parties to put their case and say, is there any room for compromise here? And council were staunch that they were not going to release the document. So we proceeded to set a hearing date.
Yeah, right. Sounds familiar.
And then, would you believe 2 weeks before the hearing, council actually provide the document.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And then they don't want to go to NCAT.
Yeah, okay.
What the for? Like, for 3 years you've said I'm not getting it.
For 3 years, you
And then you go to the case conference and say I'm not getting it. Now all of a sudden you've had a change of heart. I'd say you've had a change of heart because you know when you go to NCAT you're going to be ordered to deliver it.
And you were supposed to have been bullied and shut up.
Yes,
fuck
that's
off,
exactly
find out.
right. And I, at
As
that
usual,
point,
which is what happens to anybody who challenges these
Well-
entities in any way, shape, or form. It's time up in paperwork, bully, harass until you bugger off and comply with our wishes and whatever the hell.
once
we've
they
produced.
provided that paperwork, they were hoping, they were really hoping that that was the end of the matter and no more was going to be said. But they'd said some pretty rank stuff.
Yeah.
In the case conference,
Sure.
they'd raised this bullying. They'd said that one of the grounds that they didn't want to release the document on was that there was a risk of intimidation and harassment.
So now I've got a couple of issues with the term intimidation and harassment, right? Because what are the outcomes for intimidating somebody, right? You can here's a good one. I was at an RMS today in Wagga for a matter, and there was a fella there that was extremely tattooed all over. Now, arguably, I certainly didn't intimidate me, but I reckon a few people were giving the guy some looks. Now, does that mean that you're intimidated by him and that, there's some feeling that you're supposed to have whereby, there's paperwork to support the fact that, you're like, what are the terms and conditions for a statement like being intimidated? Because there should be some parameters. You can look at somebody and be intimidated. You can.
That's your preconceptions.
Well, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
whereas in a document like that, where are the?
But even
what are the parameters for intimidation?
But when they gave their first notice of decision, they gave basically they relied on one clause, which was clause 3A, which was that it revealed a person's personal information. That was one of the public interest reasons against disclosure that the council were relying upon.
Yep.
When they came to the case conference, they'd also included this additional clause, which was clause 3F.
3F.
Now,
Goodness.
I read this paperwork going to the case conference and I went, what? You can't introduce an additional clause after you've made the first decision, number one. But the connotations of
right, we don't like how this is playing. We're changing the rules. We're
the
now
connotations of this, though, were they introduced clause 3F of table in section 14 of the GIPA Act as a fact the council had relied upon to not release the information. Now, listen to this. Clause 3F is a risk that it could expose a person to a risk of serious harm or of serious harassment or serious intimidation. What? By releasing a document that the individual has used, or it's a statement as to what an individual's done. Now, if that individual has made some false statements in that and they turn out to be proven false, how can that be construed as harassment?
Yeah.
Intimidation.
If somebody's told a lie and it's called out on that lie, that's not harassment. That's just
serious
calling out a
harm,
lie.
serious harassment, or serious intimidation. Bullshit.
Yeah.
If you've been caught lying, that's going to give you a pain in the guts. I understand that might cause some stress.
I reckon it would. I don't know because I don't have to tell lies. I mean,
it can't be considered bullying, harassing, or intimidating.
I fortunately am in a really fortunate position in my life, and I suspect you might be in a similar position where I don't get pain in the guts about being dishonest or saying things that are not true because I just say exactly what I think. I can only imagine the amount of anguish being a porky pie teller on the regular would. I can't imagine it'd be very nice at all. I can't fathom living like that.
Well, when this individual's made statements about making contact, which are unfounded, there's no evidence of those statements. I've asked for the phone records, which haven't been produced.
Yeah.
And look, there were 1,000 other ways to make contact. There was no effort to make contact. If someone wanted to get in touch with us at the time, our office was
pretty easy to find.
1 block from their office.
Yeah.
And they could have called in and said, "Oi, I want you to quote this job." "Oi, I want you to quote this job."
Yeah.
Easy. It's over there.
Was the council depot 2 minutes away at the time still, or was that?
No. I was down on the corner when I was about 1 block from the council.
Oh, you were still down in the main street.
Yeah. They would have driven. Those individuals would have driven past my door multiple times each day.
Yeah.
So I think it's absolute horseshit that the claim would be that they were unable to contact me. That's further verified by the minutes where there's an indication that we were never considered to be contacted in the first place.
Yeah.
So if the person wants to claim that they were going to contact us, well, they're acting contrary to the directions of the meeting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it gets very muddy very quickly. Then there was a claim that the quotes were presented at the March meeting of the Heritage Committee where the individual was an apology at that meeting. And then further on it goes and you find that quotes were presented in about June.
Yeah, right.
So there's all these furphies, and it's like one lie begets another, begets another, begets another, and all of a sudden you're knee deep in them.
10 stack.
Now, I can understand that would give you stress.
Oh, man, no, absolutely.
There is no effing way known.
But that's not stress caused by you or
That's
any
not-
any external factor.
I
other
haven't-
than you. There's an element there of stress caused by one's own actions.
I don't feel as though my actions have would be considered. They would expose a person to a risk of serious harm, or of serious harassment, or serious intimidation.
I wouldn't have thought so.
No, if you want to make a statement and you want to hide behind that statement, you better be fucking right to back it up and stop telling effing lies. You know, this is what it's all about, being a grown up, isn't it?
Well,
You know?
accountability, transparency.
No,
and
but seriously.
sometimes as adults we get punched in the face.
Well, I'm telling
Sometimes
you,
it's self-inflicted, sometimes not so much.
as this stuff went on, it got worse and worse and worse. There was a senior officer of council made allegations at NCAT around this clause 3F.
Yep.
And when the tribunal member said, I'm going to stop you there, there's no evidence to support these claims.
Evidence.
Yes. What's that?
You don't need evidence.
That's
what
the
a
whole
claim
thing.
is.
Show me your evidence. There's no evidence. There's never been any evidence. There is no evidence.
I don't know. You got folders and folders of evidence.
Well,
mate.
this is the whole thing. They keep throwing this one out there like a dead fish, and it stinks like a dead fish. But I'm telling you, they've got nothing to back it up. Here we are in 2024, and I've just been elected to my second term of council, and they keep rolling this old chestnut out, but they don't back it up. Well, back it up.
Put it on the table, baby. Put it on the table.
Now, this got worse and grubbier and shittier because obviously it was causing Belinda some real issues
Sure.
because, as you're aware, Belinda turned up at my workplace unannounced at about 4:45 in the afternoon when I'm just there working on my own, minding my own business, doing my own thing. And she was brought up there by another individual and started out with a statement along these lines. If my kids grow up without a mum because I've killed myself, it's on you. Now, no individual deserves that sort of shit. That is completely uncalled for, outrageous and disgusting. And Temora Shire Council have never once reached out to me and offered any support in respect to that. They have sat there and they are fully
were they aware of this?
Yes, they are aware of it. I informed.
Obviously, I know a certain amount of things there, but
No,
you know, so what were they aware of? What were they not aware of? What was your
no, they were aware of
response
it.
to this sort of interaction?
And the Office of Local Government was made aware of it as
And
well.
I guess my other little thought process there, and again, I don't, you know, if I'm scared, intimidated, or harassed by somebody, I tend to not go to their house. If I feel fear or whatever around that person.
Oh, look, the reasoning behind
I
it,
mean, there
I'm
aren't
sure.
many I can think of, but you know, if I was shit scared of somebody, or you know, felt all these things, I certainly wouldn't be attending their premises under any circumstance. I'd be avoiding them. That would be the.
I can't think of any genuine reason why someone who felt bullied or intimidated would go to the individual's
Place of work.
And if you were in that frame of mind, the last place you would be taking them as a support person would be to that individual.
To that individual. Says,
You would be taking them
elsewhere.
somewhere
Yeah.
to receive some treatment or some support.
And was there some following support treatment? Was there police reports to sort of?
Well, this is the thing.
You know, like, I mean, I know.
Look,
I'm sort of look.
I completely rejected the imputation that was put forward by that individual on the day, and I could have sat there and booked in for a very long and robust argument on all of the points, but I used me common sense, and I thought,
a bit of a self-preservation technique. If I'm not getting in this fight, that's not going to happen.
well, but look, it's a stupid thing to be saying. It's a stupid thing to be doing. The best thing I can do here is just to defuse the situation and get them off my property.
Yeah.
So I allowed the individual to vent and blurt and bloat and bleat and spew up all of this bullshit, get it off her chest and leave.
Yep.
Then I phoned my wife and I told her what had gone down. And then whilst it was still all fresh in my mind, I went down to the local police and I said, look, I'd just like to make a report. These people have attended these premises at this time of the day. This is the frame of mind they're in. This is what was said. Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
The police officer who took the report said, okay, it'd probably be sensible to do a welfare check for that individual later on. And I said,
yeah, absolutely.
Considering the claims that were made, I said that'd be probably sensible.
Yep.
So I've subsequently got a copy of that police report, and it was provided by the New South Wales Police Force under a Freedom of Information request. It was provided in about 2 days.
Yep.
And there was no problem with any of it.
Right.
And it basically bears out all of those facts and the fact that the police officers then attended
To check and make sure everything was going to
and
be
also
all right.
part of that process verifies that the visit was made to my premises.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and there were things along that of that nature.
Things were said,
discussed.
things were, and that's heavy shit.
But what it does, it basically reinforces the statement I've made and backs it up, and it's been sort of cross-checked.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, here we are in a situation that's just completely out of hand. People are doing pretty rank things.
Yeah.
And all because what? Like the town hall job fell over because someone broke their word.
Mm.
And then other really poor decisions were made to try and, out of spite or retribution or whatever, because I'd questioned the actions relative to the town hall job. It appears to me that other work's been that we normally would have had access to at least quote on has been deliberately directed away from us.
Yeah.
And then when questions are asked around that, then false statements have been made relative to that.
Yeah.
And it just goes up and up and up and up and up. And then these people that have got nothing to do with any of the original matters are getting dragged in. And
it's
chewed up
escalating and
and spat out.
collateral damage left, right, and centre.
And then there's statements made, and then there's people dragged in, and then there's, like even those statements made, like the introduction of that clause 3F by council at the NCAT matter. What on earth were they thinking?
We don't have any valid arguments here, so therefore we're going to cry.
We're going to try and make this guy out to be a bully because all he wants is a statement that's full of false statements.
Yeah.
Now, I can understand that provision of that statement would give someone a pain in the guts.
Yeah.
And particularly when they've taken, like if they had just pulled that out straight up, I would have said, well, that didn't happen and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, that's,
and then we could have sorted that out at a very low level, at a very early stage.
Yes.
The longer they've left it, the more it's escalated, the more it's ramped up, and the more problems it's caused. So here we are. That's in November 2021. All that shit's gone down. I get elected to council in December 2021. And lo and behold, so does Belinda Bushell. So we're sitting on council together.
Well, you got 8 years together.
Well, but
my marriage didn't last 8
years.
Well,
the first council term was 2 years and 9 months. So we had to basically go into the chamber with all of this unresolved issues and no attempt by any of the powers to be from within council to actually deal with any of it. And actually, from where I sat, it seemed to serve their purposes to have this victim sitting there and this nasty person sitting there.
Of course.
And it helped them to sort of paint this picture.
For every good guy, you're going to have a bad guy. You've got to be able to paint it. It's professional wrestling 101. You need to have a villain. You need to have somebody sympathetic figure. You've got to, and behind it all, you got Vinnie Mac making billions.
And we still haven't gone back and actually addressed all of these other issues. So that's it. That's the information I've got. That's all in council public records. Their council's minutes of the Heritage Committee meeting that I'm referencing, they're being produced by council.
Yeah.
Now,
The sad part for me with all that, but and there's obviously a lot of it, is the weaponisation of suicide should never be a thing.
No, but
Look, that stuff sounds fucking heated and shit that I don't want to get. I don't want to personally get bogged down in, because that's not my dog in the fight.
Yeah.
I don't think council should
But
be
I
paying
just
for
think
any signs. There shouldn't be any signs, but there shouldn't be any other expenditure.
But
for
I just
council,
think it was a direct result. It can only be considered a direct result
watching
out of spite because of that was done.
when you understand a little bit of Machiavellian theory, and I don't just mean you've heard of it, you know that there are certain people in those spaces who are very, very good at those games, the dark arts of politics.
Oh, I've just been very nasty.
But that's what it is. It's a dark art of politics, and you roll people and you manipulate people, and
in the lead
there
up
are a lot of people who do that stuff.
to the last election,
Suicide's a real thing.
Oh, yes.
You know, I've had very good friends commit suicide. I had a teacher locally commit suicide. There's no secret about the fact that what went on with Matthew McDermott here, and my affiliation. A very, very good friend of mine, Brett Hinson, similar sort of story. I know of teenagers, making attempts. Or, and the self-harm thing, is it attention? Is it whatever? But the bottom line is it's serious shit.
Well, Matthew McDermott's was from an unfounded allegation. And
Absolutely.
He wasn't supported at the time.
Lies aren't good.
Yeah. Now, my situation, I'm a bit older, a little bit more established, and I've got some good support people around me.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was able to
weather the storm.
It's not like I got through unaffected.
No.
But it's just I had a little bit more of a coping network around me to support me.
You weren't isolated,
and because I was the age I am, and because I've got the relationships with people that I have, and I've proven my what would you say, my modus operandi over a long period of time.
Yeah.
People knew.
There was enough people who know who you are and what you're about to kind of go, well, hang on, there's something not quite right with this.
And they also knew that what had gone down relative to the other matters. So, so I was, whilst it still had an impact on me, I was in a good space and I was held up. But I can see how someone who didn't have that support network around them and didn't have that body of work behind them, that had buckled. And
absolutely.
And
and that isolation's something that people go through, and we hear about suicides every day.
Well,
I think it's the most common killer of men, or one of the most common killers of men in Australia.
And the most thing for anyone is public humiliation. And when you get these allegations made against you, it's the public humiliation. It's the slur on your reputation, and that's the thing that. And regardless of how many times you face it down and you stare it down, there's just the allegation. There's an element of the mud that sticks. And
of course,
people out there in the community who just latch onto it, and that was latched onto by some individuals in the community, and I had to address it later on by raising it publicly as a councillor in a council meeting. And I said, there are people in the community who are spreading this rumour that I bullied a staff member, and it was taken up, and ultimately I got a letter from the general manager, the ex-general manager, Gary Lavelle, that said there'd never been a formal complaint of bullying against me.
Yeah.
But I had to go to that length and get that formal letter. And even now, I could put that letter in front of people and they'd go, "That's not true." Well,
Mum, I made it up. Yeah.
Okay, we've got
Heath's just saying, hats go off to you for persisting in bringing the truth to Temora and residents, uncovering lies. You're a very patient man indeed. Mate, look, he's got the patience of a saint with this stuff.
No,
I know. I'm far too hot-headed to go through it in that manner.
There's a part of my personality that I'll take a fair bit for a long period of time, but then all of a sudden it just gets to a certain point where you go, "No, I've had enough."
Yeah.
And it's coming back your way. And it's at that point that basically tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And it has some impacts on other parts of your life. I've had some periods throughout this where it has been fairly all-consuming.
Yep.
But as we've discussed, we've got elements of our lives outside of all this, and I feel at the moment my mental health's good.
Yep,
Business
is good.
going well. My relationships with the important people in my
Oh,
life,
business is booming.
going well.
Business is booming.
Yeah, so but it's only through people who have got the common sense to see through the bullshit.
Yeah.
And understand.
You will lose a percentage of these things, you know. And,
well,
and I had a conversation this week. And somebody said, how do you do it? How do you do it? Because I mean, I get a bit of hate thrown my way.
Yes.
You know, how do you cope with it? How do you digest it all? And you know, and you get into these, I suppose, stoushes or whatever. Like for me, I don't want any problems with anybody. My biggest thing is arguably leave me the fuck alone. You know, if you don't want to watch my content, don't. You know what I mean? I don't force anybody to do any damn thing. But if you come at me with a problem, if you come at me in a way I don't like, if you want to call me out and pick a fight, as the papers recently learned, no problem. I don't want a problem, but I'm happy to give you a problem if you give me a problem. You know, and it's not a case for me where I don't go around looking for fights with these people. I have some pretty staunch beliefs and a pretty solid value system on the things that I support and the things that I don't. And I sleep real well at night because, first time they did that in the paper, for example, I copped it really sweet, I thought. Second and third and fourth time, I went, right, fuck, you and me, pal, we're going to do this essentially till, you know, you die of old age or I die of old age.
The paper's got no credibility because they'll go and drag matters up to stick it to try and ruin your reputation, but they won't report on things that could cause reputational damage to others within the community. And it's very selective how that they do that.
Absolutely. And I'm just the guy that I'll sleep at night not losing one iota of interest. If they want a gun for me, I won't break a sweat picking that fight.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm fortunate like that. And, you know, to the people when we were talking about the other day, you know, not everybody is built that way. Not everybody can do that. And a lot of other people end up isolated, unsupported,
there's a certain part of it where these people want to be respected. They want to put themselves up on the pedestal and they want to be treated with a degree of authority and a degree of respect.
Oh, they love that shit.
Well, there's a flip side to that. You've got to back it up with good behaviour and integrity and honesty. And that's what I demand. So if you want the friggin' respect, you got to earn it. So don't lie to me. Don't bullshit me. Don't put ridiculous roadblocks in my way because I'll just cast them aside. They're absolute paper mache, mate. I'm a Mack truck. I'm coming through. If you want to hide behind bullshit lawyers and just bully me with that sort of crap when you've got no legal basis,
Yeah.
I'll call that shit out every day of the week. I don't care how many lawyers you line up. If the act reads how the act reads and that's what it says,
Face value,
mate, you can't argue it. It's that simple.
I've got a question for you before we sort of get close to winding up based on current recent events.
Yes.
Have you ever been to a Diddy party?
No.
You've ever been invited to a Diddy party?
No.
You reckon Ricky and Mickey have ever been to a Diddy party?
Probably not.
Probably not. Would they have been invited?
Probably not.
Would they go if they were invited?
Don't know.
The Diddy stuff's been wild, Cross. That's been funny.
Yeah,
that's a show.
That's just one of those times you really hope you were home in bed early and feeling like you were left out of the clique.
There's a lot of times I feel good not being in certain cliques. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I want to be out.
I absolutely am.
That's all blowing up, Gala. The US elections, when are they coming up?
We've got about a month to go.
No, it's like a week.
No, it's not a week. It's about 4 weeks. I watched the VP debates yesterday. And look, I don't really like either of those two guys very much. I think Vance is a smart fella, but he's also a smug little asshat. And I think poor old Waltz is sort of certainly in over his head, well and truly outgunned out man.
Tuesday the 5th.
Yeah, so a month.
Yeah,
about a month. I'm usually right. I thought I was wrong once. Turns out I was mistaken.
I thought I heard something on the radio. I thought it was closer.
Well, I'll tell you what. Look, I'll put it this way. As far as that goes, I still think with the world circumstance the way it is, with everything blowing up the way it has been, literally in some cases, Trump's the best bet. Certainly out of the two monkeys in the game. I still find it highly embarrassing that in a country of 350 odd million people, the best we can come up with is these two. That's
Well,
kind of sad. But
Kamala's only there by default because Joe forgot where he worked.
Joe forgot where he was at, and then Kamala got the job.
Now, last time we spoke about this, actually, Kamala was in front of Trumpy
Oh yeah.
in the. We
And
don't
sports bet.
encourage betting.
No, if you're
They're looking at one of the betting agencies.
if you're a consenting adult, you bet all you like, and if you can afford it, that's on you.
Now they've got Trump in at $1.83 and Kamala at $1.91, so they really don't know.
They have no
There's 4
idea.
cents.
They haven't got a clue.
But-
And you know what? I think with the state of affairs that we're in, Trump's probably the best man for the job to deal with, out of the two of them anyway, to deal with this Israel and Iran thing, which is what the Palestinian thing's turned into. That's getting so epic. Now, I've got really good friends who I interviewed on Pterodactyl FM early on when all this started. One's a lady named Maya Tessa. Feel free to look her up. If you like my stuff, you'll like her stuff. And she's of Lebanese background. She's a Christian Lebanese woman. And the religion's only, I'm just painting a little picture for you there. I don't really give a shit who you pray to. She's an absolute powerhouse, but she's got a lot of family that are actually tied up in the Lebanese portion of that world. And, you know,
Australia's got a big Lebanese community.
she's
There's massive amounts of people.
one of my best mates and business partners is a
In-
Lebanese guy.
Israeli,
then on
Jewish people.
But
as
then
well.
the next side of it is the other fellow who I interviewed at Pterodactyl FM is a guy named Daniel Lukovitz, who, again, check him out. The guy's brilliant, runs a company called Calamity Security or whatever it is. You know, he's been featured on, you know, Current Affairs and all these sort of shows for the program he runs. He's actually got family members currently sitting in bunkers in Israel having the shit bombed out of them by the Iranians. So, you know, and these people are dear friends of mine, you know, like whatever their religion.
No, it's getting
shit
real.
is, it's getting real gangster. And on the other side of it, you've still got the US throwing money at the poor little Ukrainian lunatic. And you know, I've got no faith in him as a politician.
I'm really concerned.
The
US, we've got a history of warmongering.
Absolutely.
They love nothing better than having a war on someone else's soil with someone else's children. And
Absolutely.
they're quite happy to bankroll the whole
We're happy
thing
to bankrupt it, sell the weapons, give them the weapons,
and make a
and
shit
make
ton of
that
money
like
out of
we're
it.
amazing.
There was something said about that the other day where they were talking about the aid given to the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
And they said no such thing. That money does not leave US shores.
Yeah.
That money goes from the US government to the weapons manufacturers, and the shipping containers full of bombs and guns turn up in Ukraine.
And look, all you know, foreign aid really is where the poor people in rich countries' money is packed up and sent over to rich people in poor countries for them to spend however they see fit. And in both situations, the poor people in these countries lose. The average punter, and when I say the average punter, I mean the average Joe in Russia who's getting bombed, stabbed, and killed. Average Joe in Ukraine being bombed, stabbed, and killed. Average Joe in Iran, Lebanon, all these Middle Eastern countries, Israel. The average Joes are being killed to as collateral damage of the wars of rich fucking oil barons and power-hungry politicians, and they're a bunch of cunts.
Yeah.
There you go. I've got nothing nice to say about any of them.
And it's getting real, and it's getting a bit more widespread, and there's more. And you try and unpick that tapestry that is the Middle East, and like, good luck.
Well, the only time a war wasn't started in by US President recent history was under Trump. No war started under his leadership.
So anyway, well,
so
that'll be a space
big
to watch.
news.
There's some big stuff going on there.
Don't forget, anybody who is watching, I'm still running. I've got a half marathon to do in a few weeks. I'm raising money for Bears for Hope, the charity for you know, women who lose infants and, you know, miscarry. And we've got a regular listener who we better give him a shout out. It's a big happy birthday.
Yeah, big happy birthday. Well done, Macca.
Big happy birthday to Macca, Chris McKenzie. Fine pillar of the community.
Yep.
Outstanding gentleman.
Yeah, a great supporter of
the Spin Doctors here, and
he loves the truth.
not a bad bloke either. He's all right. We
So
go
he likes
back
to
a
get the
ways.
other side of the
He likes to
story.
get both sides of the story. He does like a story.
Tells a few
Macca
stories.
tells a few stories. Quite a storyteller. Macca, happy birthday, mate. You know, we hope you're having a good one. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. But ladies and gentlemen, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Of course, if there's anything we can do the like, share, and subscribe thing if you want to. We're burn on the YouTube, burn on the Facebook.
Next time we're here, I think it'll be we'll probably have I think it's next Thursday that we actually have to swear the oath.
Swear the oath. I can think of a few.
And I think it's Friday we get to actually pick up some business papers and we're back into it. So
Yeah, righto. Well, that sounds
so
all
that'll be
good.
interesting. I'll be interested to see how it all goes and how the new kids all perform.
Well, and I'll make this offer now to any of the new kids or the older kids that are going on to council. Any of us want to come in here and have a chat, doors wide open. All you got to do is let us know. We're quite happy to sit here and we'll put an extra chair there. I'll move my fat butt over this side a little bit, and we'll be more than happy to come on in and we may or may not agree on everything, but we can certainly have some robust discussions for the people to see what you're all about. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone have a great Thursday night. We thank you for your support, and we even thank you if you don't support us.
Enjoy
because
the long
it's
weekend.
why not?